Okay, so welcome back. So let's go into this again. Go into this a little further and look at our old mindset and the new mindset that I'm trying to develop here. So our old mindset is where we have this data and we're just gonna, you know, clean it up. It's already clean CSVs and just then analyze it. But then our new way is like we're gonna get data from various sources, whether web scraping or using the API to get this data, and then perform some type of analysis in some way, shape, or form. Okay, and again, this creates creates students that are active data seekers rather than passive, in terms of the data acquisition element of working with data. Um, so let's continue with regards to this actual perspective. Let's go a little bit deeper. When we go deeper, we start to say, why does this even matter? Is this really important? And I would argue, yes, it is very important. The actual landscape of actually working with data that's changing and having different formats is becoming increasingly popular, and allowing students to have this set of tools is huge for this in this field. A lot of things are requiring different APIs, API keys, and requiring students to get information from desperate sources and bringing it together so that they can make sense of a said situation. So that is this situation is huge in terms of providing students with ample tools for the future. So in looking at this deeper, we have, like I mentioned earlier, we have again static and dynamic sources of data. And again, we're used to working with CSV files and Excel sheets and so on and so forth. And that's us creating data sets that are utilizing data sets that are already cleaned and so on and so forth. And so what we can now do is, let me take time to emphasize now using dynamic data. And what I mean by dynamics is that it it could change at any sense. Oh, sorry, I'm not saying that correctly. It's updated. Long story short, it's updated, and it's out of your control. Okay, and typically you don't own it. And so there's a lot of issues that can arise with this, and I will eventually. No, well, I guess I'll eventually mention it in other videos. But there's definitely issues that can arise in that, since it doesn't belong to you. The developers can make changes to a website, or even their database. Then therefore, your functions, your calls are will work. What's funny about that is that that's reality. And I think that having students experience that before they enter the workforce is giving them the ability to then make changes to those calls, okay, to those requests and the way they clean the data. Okay, and so with that being the case, dynamic data, we defined it. We have again two sources. Okay, one is using APIs, as you can see in this image. This video, I mean, this introduction is a very simplistic, aka this image is a very simplistic understanding of what's happening between the client and using APIs. Yes, you're making a request, and then the API actually talks to a server. We'll talk more about that in the next section. Talks to a server, gets the data from the database, and then sends a response, or maybe sends a response back to it sends a response, but it might send the data, it may not, depending on what happens, back to the client. Okay, so that's the essentially general gist with APIs. You make a request, it responds back to you. Long story short, but we'll go into a little bit more deeper analysis, or not analysis, but explanation of this in the next session. And then another way of dynamic source extraction is using or extracting data from the HTML web pages. So one could argue that this could be static. So once you post data onto a website, let's say that you don't update it. I agree. That could be static. However, when it comes to sports data, for example, every time there's a game, they update, the web page. So I would, frame that way of thinking as dynamic, and it's on the web page, and the developers can make changes dynamically, and so we can have access to said data in a dynamic fashion. So I put that under this way of thinking. Okay, and so when it comes to HTML pages, are primarily designed for human readability. That is nice. I'm going to show in this session what an HTML page looks like, or at least an HTML table looks like, and it's going to be readable. It's going to make sense. But then at the same time, when it comes to APIs, it's a little bit different. Again, both are dynamic. And again, we're trying to give the students a skill set for an enigma that's consistently changing. Okay, so let's continue. So when it comes to APIs, what are they? More specifically, we're focusing on web APIs. If you go deeper into computer science or or development in general, you see that there are different types of APIs. But we are only going to focus on web APIs. In that, it's the ability for a software, okay, to communicate to another software. The acronym API actually stands for Application Programming Interface, okay? And it's a way for you to essentially have software communicate with other pieces of software and then give you some type of feedback, some type of information back. So this image is great. Legitimately, this is how a part of how the internet works. In that, you are the client, the cell phone, the web browser communicates to the internet, uses the API, okay, that's the software that communicates to the server and says, can I please have some data, please? And if you have permission, if you are able to, it brings back that data. It fetches that data. And then it responds back to you. Here you go, 200, status 200. We'll talk more about that in the next session. Status 200. Here's your data. But let's say you don't have permission, or there's some issue with the request that you made. Status 400, and the server's going to say, no, you have no access. It's something along those matter. All right. And so that's traditionally how I think of an API. Again, you're going to see me do this image more and more throughout the session in session 2. But this is a general, understanding of what's going on here. And traditionally speaking, and especially nowadays, that response that's given back to you is in the format of a JSON. You say, what is a JSON? Let's go to it. A JSON is something what we call, it's a JavaScript or object notation. JavaScript object notation. Long story short, you have keys and values. So the keys legitimately are the attributes, the things that you're trying to characteristics, and then the values are the actual specific details. Okay, so here we have player points and team. Then we have the value as the keys, and then we have the values LeBron James 27.1, and then I don't know how the points is 27.1. That's fine. And then Lakers. Maybe it's the average points. Okay. So that's the idea of a JSON. That's the information being sent back from the server. We'll talk more about that in detail in the next video. Okay. Not the next video, the next session. Okay, so then when it comes to APIs, they're not just technical tools. It's a popular way. It's one of the most popular ways to actually communicate with a database. And again, these terminologies you're going to hear me mentioning more and more, and especially in session 2 regarding APIs, that are going to be not readily, but are being a part of our language more and more, especially with the growing field of AI, ways for you to interact with ChatGPT or even Gemini outside of their user interface is to have an API communicate with it using R or Python. That's neither here nor there, but again, having this familiarity with this way of thinking is huge for future data scientists. So let's actually do an example. I know that I'm reaching on 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and do the example. Let's make this 15 minutes and go from there. All right. So I'm just gonna move this to the next line. We have using tidyverse. So using tidy census. So tidy census is really cool. I really love this package in that we can legitimately use an API to get data regarding the census. Amazing. Okay, so let's imagine again, starting with the question, which 10 counties in Iowa had the highest median household income in 2022? Okay, Great. And so now that we have our question in mind, how do we get said data to be able to at least visualize this? Okay. So again, we're going to use tidy census, and traditionally speaking, what we don't have to do it. Now, we're very fortunate. I'm going to show you why in a little bit. But this is the process for you to actually get the API key. Okay, so if you want to make more than 500 requests within a day, you can actually sign up and get your API key. I'm not going to do it for this particular session. For the weather data, we're going to do it, or we're going to use, most likely going to use mine. But just be aware that this is the process. It's very easy. You got to plug in your organization name, just say your institution, and then your email. Click agree. I timed it. It was 45 seconds, 45.22 seconds that I got the email in terms of the API key. And I'm going to show you where you would actually put it, but we don't even have to use it. You'll see why in a moment. Okay, and so that's that. So here, assuming that you haven't installed the package, you would just say tidy census and then install it. But since I already installed it, I'm not going to install it. Again, assuming that you already installed it, that's fine. So once you get your API key, you would plug it here. Again, we're not going to run this. I'm not going to, it says in a moment, we're not going to run that at all, because you'll see in a moment what happens. A little message that tidy census does for us. Okay. And if you were to do it, you would want to restart RStudio and so on and so forth. So the required packages, again, I know we've already implemented some of them already, but it's important for you to just see where packages are important in terms of working with tidy census. Okay, in terms of working with tidy census, first, of course, tidy census is the first one. Let's go ahead and type that. Census. Okay. Dplyr for any transformations that we have to implement in any way, shape, or form. And then we actually have to use string R. Actually, we're not going to use string R, but I'm just going to include it just where we could use string R. And then again, ggplot2. ggplot2. So uncomment these. Okay, I spelled ggplot2 incorrectly, but I'll fix that momentarily. Okay, boom. And now run this. We're looking good. Okay. So then from there, we're going to find our variables. So this is actually quite neat in that there's a function within tidy census that allows you to see all the variables that you technically have access to according to a particular survey that they have access, that they implement. So we're going to use the American Community Survey in 5-year estimates, and so that's one of the arguments within the function. But we also want to focus on 2022. So when we do that, we're going to 2022, and these are the variables from 2022 American Community Survey. So here we go. So when I run this, it's going to take a little bit. It's fine. Okay, and then it shows up. And as you can see here, it's 28,152 variables. A lot of variables. But we want to focus on the median household income. Again, that's the question that we're after. Okay, so we'll just gotta spell this correctly. And so this line of code is going to look for any variable that consists of median house. Gotta spell it correctly. Household income. Okay. And so when I run this, I'm gonna notice that all of them have what in common? The B1903013. Okay, in the beginning. Okay. And so we would want to make sure we collect each and every one that has this said prefix in front of it. That would indicate the median household income. Okay. So with that being then said, we can now use get ACS as the function to get access to this data regarding a particular location. And we're going to look at Iowa in particular because we're in Iowa. I mean, we're going to be in Iowa. Okay. All right. So here we got to fill out some pieces of information in order for us to get this information, the thing that we're after. Okay. Our geography, we're going to use it. Unit is going to be county. Okay. And the variable code is going to be the one that we said we were going to use earlier, the prefix. And the state that we're after, the initials is IA for Iowa. And then the year that we're considering is 2022. I know there's A, B, C, D, and that doesn't follow the paradigm exactly. Those mean, they also have different meanings. We don't have to go into the hairy details here. Just know that we're focusing primarily on 001, which indicates the actual county that we're after. So we can uncomment this, okay? And then when we run this, it's going to say something. I come to the wrong thing. Uncomment this. It's going to say something that I want to see. Good. So this is huge. So this is the reason why we're not getting API key, because the very first 500 queries, we don't have to worry about it. Okay. Time-wise, if we wanted to go deeper, we couldn't get the API. Therefore, we won't have to worry about this issue. And I don't know the actual limits, but every API has limits because it doesn't want you just to steal all the information from the database. And so that's fine. So as you can see here, Iowa income data. I believe there are 99 counties in Iowa. But that's neither here nor there. So we have now this data. Okay. And we can, I think it's already clean for the most part, but we can actually view it. Let's see, view it if it's clean. I think it's clean. Let's see. Iowa income. So geocode's a character, name's a character, variable's a character, estimates double. Okay, this is pretty clean to me because they're doubles and they're considered to be numeric. Okay, so that's good. So that's fine. Traditionally speaking, most times when you use APIs in extracting data, they're going to give you that data in the proper format. Web scraping tends to be a different animal. So with that being said, let's take some time and just clean this up, and then let's go ahead and visualize this. So here, we're going to order it by estimate. Okay, by this estimate. Then we're going to look at the 10. So it's going to give us the top 10. Then our x-axis is going to be, it should be estimate. Make it look a little, it's going to be horizontal, the bars. And then we're going to have the name, we're going to have estimate. So then on the Y is going to be the name. And then title, top 10 Iowa counties by median household income in 2022. X is going to be median household income. Median household income. And then Y is going to be county. And I think that should be it. Right? So uncomment this. Okay, and then run. Of course, we get an error. That's fine. What's the error? Estimate, because you got to spell things right. Emmanuel. Okay, estimate. Okay, there we go. There we go. So Dallas County is doing pretty good, huh? All right, so we answered that question that we originally asked earlier. Okay, which 10 counties in Iowa had the highest median household income, which is great. And we also especially, we used the API to do so. Okay. So in case we wanted to do 2023, I don't know if that would technically work because I don't think it's measured every year. It's measured every 5 years. So maybe in 2027 we should be okay. And then maybe your students say, okay, let's try 17. Okay, so we have the ability to do that. Okay, so that's it for this video. It's pretty long. We have one more video. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty short for web scraping, and that's it. Thank you.